Am I turning the time off? Chief? Chief? Let's turn it over to you, Dan. State, yeah, this is maybe state. Sorry, still 5:59. Pretty much. Okay, we ready, Laurie? Why are we only on one side today? Did we lose one of our projectors? Just wondering. Are we ready? Around the corner. You ready?
Yes, we're ready.
All right. We're recording? Yes. All right. All right. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Pleasantview City Council this March 22nd, 2022, 6 p.m. Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see people actually sitting out there in those seats. Appreciate that. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then an opening prayer reading or expression of thought by Council Member Marriott. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we are indeed grateful for the opportunity we have as citizens and friends and neighbors to be able to join this council meeting this evening. We're thankful for the freedoms that we have. We're especially mindful of the freedoms and the rule of law and the great blessing we have to be able to make those laws and stand by those. We're thankful for the blessings we have of this community, and we are grateful for the citizens and all those who live here that help us to make this a nice place. We are grateful for our law enforcement and first responders, and especially this evening, we pray that we might be able to learn from them, and we're grateful for their service and the things that they do to help us keep us safe. We ask a blessing tonight to be upon us, that we'll be mindful of the things that we need to accomplish, that we'll be able to debate and discuss the things that need the business of the city, and we'll be able to make resolutions to those and to be able to move forward. We're grateful for these things, and we do this in the name of Jesus Christ.
Next item on the agenda is declarations, conflicts of interest. Everybody have a chance to review the conflicts? Okay. Move on to questions or comments for the mayor or council from the public. Anybody wish to address the mayor? Seeing none, we'll move to the first item of business, which is a presentation from Weaver High School Resource Officer Van Beacon regarding police department support of student safety. I'll turn the time over to the chief first.
Okay, thank you very much. Over the last few years, we've had Officer Van Beacon at Weaver High School, and it just amazes me every few days he'll come in with a bag of paraphernalia and items he confiscates from the high school. I know we got a great bunch of kids up there, but there's a side to what's going on at Weber High that some of us don't always see. And Officer Van Beekam's done an excellent job of keeping that under control. I've asked him to come in tonight and just take a few minutes and show and explain some of the cases he's had and the paraphernalia he's confiscated and what's actually going on at our high school. So Ron, if you wouldn't mind coming up and taking it away.
and I'm not gonna pull it apart, but what happens is they'll cut a little piece of that, like, they'll cut a little piece of that, they'll put it into the pipe, and then they'll push it by and they'll heat it. And then they'll pipe. They don't like putting a little stuff in it. But it's still very fun to want to know what it sounds like. Both stations know this. You can put it in there. You're not gonna get hot.
We're gonna bring the dog in.
You'll just bring back out in there. No. I understand that. You just pass it and then just.
Did you bring any ding dongs or potato chips?
There are different kinds. I'm sure that's gonna. This is how dangerous it is going on.
You know, I think it's important that you remember as Ron does this, these aren't adults doing this. These are 15-year-old kids that are up there that Ron's dealing with.
This is a 99%. Hey, Mayor. Yeah. I've just got a text that they can't hear you on Zoom. Is there a chance you can grab the microphone?
So this is a
You can
90.
you just
It
hold?
takes
Can you
out.
just hold on to it? Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so this is a 99% THC. So when I pull you out the other stuff, what other stuff is you can, the THC now is when I grew up, it was Cheech and Chong, right? And it was pull out a joint and it's 2 to 3% THC. You got a little bit hungry and stoned or whatever it was. These kids are now puffing this stuff that is 99% THC. It's pure extract of the marijuana. So when we have kids that are incoherent, can't breathe, can't do anything, basically they're greened out or they're just so stoned they can't move, and we have to take them to the hospital or we'll probably ambulance because of that. So with that in mind, I'll put these back here, back in the back, and then I'll quickly show you what we complicated over that last year and a half.
While you're doing that, are they doing this themselves? Are they creating the concentrate themselves? Or are they buying? I mean,
Like,
so,
and of course they won't tell us who their sources are or where they're buying it from or anything else like that. But on the most time, they're buying that. This is what I call the most expensive vapes.
And how do they just look it up on YouTube? How do they learn how to make that concept? So you buy it, how do they make the concentrate?
Well, they
That's
can
who-
make that on YouTube, or most of the time they're going to turn around and buy it from a buyer.
Okay.
18, 19-year-old kid that used to go to school, or they get on Snapchat, or they find out who their source is at. One little package like that is probably going to cost them $25. So they'll take a little knife and they'll scrape it off and they'll put it in there and do that. These are the most expensive vapes.
They have an adult dealer. Usually they'll have an adult dealer, you know, somebody that deals drugs for a living, I guess you would say, that's now selling it to kids in high school.
So
How long has it taken you to gather this many?
this has been in the last year and a half. So these will run you anywhere from $200, $300 to $150 on most of them. We're not seeing a lot of these anymore. These are the ones when you drive down the street, you see the big billow of smoke coming out of the windows. That's these. And we don't have a lot of kids using these anymore because the smoke that it creates, right? So we have alarms in our bathrooms, and the kids are thinking that they're smart by what they'll do is they'll hold the smoke in, and then they'll blow it out, or little by little, or they try to blow it into the water in the toilet, and then they're out. But they're sensitive enough that, or they'll hold it until they get right to the door and blow it out and get out, but they still get them picked up. So they obviously come with batteries and so forth. Okay, so these are the most expensive ones. We don't see a lot of these, and I got kids that says, "Can I have these back?" or you know, because it's $150 to $200 that they've lost, and each one will come with batteries, which are here, or the filters, which is here. Okay, so I'm going to make a mess of this table. Sorry about that. These are the juices that you can see that they all come in. So they'll actually buy the juices, fill up the fillers, and they'll fill them up. So I won't pour them out.
This is one incident where we had a student that had the vape, the shotgun shells, the juices, the tobacco, you name it, he had everything in that one. What we're seeing now is the most common. These I find, and kids are very truthful. I ask them, where did you get it? They'll say, oh, I bought it at a store. Normally it's a store that's right above Monroe and 25th Street. They don't ID them. Or it's the store at 21st and Jefferson. And this is what we have now. We have both. So the round cylinder ones are running around $20, $20 to $25. And we'll have them, or we'll have these, which is now becoming a little bit more prevalent because parents don't realize what they have. We'll have them. And the reason I show you these is because these are the new ones. They're just sticks. And here's one that I wanted to show you. The mom said, well, I thought this was just a, what do you call it?
Jump drive.
Jump drive. So he's got it parked in where you can just put the battery and just put it right in the side of it.
You showed it, I didn't see it.
So it's just a little jump drive, but it's just a stick. It's what they, and these are running around $10.
Are those refillable also, or?
They're not. They're not
Okay.
refillable. They'll give you anywhere from 100 to 200 puffs. We stopped a kid that had, these are all full, and what he was doing is he was buying them for $10 and selling them for 20.
On school grounds.
Quite a market.
And that's tobacco primarily, are they able to fill those with dab?
So you cannot fill these. These are just one shot. They have tobacco in them. And you can see that they'll give you so many puffs per stick, and then they're gone.
Ron, are these the ones that are like flavored, like bubble gum and cotton candy? And
Yes, so when
So they can't enhance these in any way.
they cannot. So you're going to find them like this. You'll find them in boxes where they're going to look like this. This one is called Cooling Melon and Light, or whatever it is. You're getting strawberry, lemon. It's tobacco, but it's all in different flavors. And to me, it just smells stinks. It's just that flowery, stinky smell. But to them, it's that flavor. So very highly addictive, and these kids will tell you that yes, we're addicted. This is an addictive thing, but it's so prevalent that. But this is the more common one that you'll see, and they can hide these easier. In fact, what we'll have kids do is they'll actually be in class, and what they'll do is they'll cough, fake cough, put it to their mouth. They're getting good enough to where they can just swallow the smoke, and then they'll whip it up into their sleeve. A lot of them will have bands, and they'll put them up into the bands, and so when we search their pockets, they'll pull it out their pockets. The kids are smart, but we're smarter.
So these produce a lot less smoke, is that what you're saying?
These kids produce much less smoke. And now what kids are starting to do is that they may have this and a marijuana one. And so when we'll stop them, we'll say, empty your pockets, and they'll say, here it is. And then we don't look any further until I started getting used to the trend. And now we have a wand, a metal detector, that if we feel that they might have something more, it's actually less intrusive. We're not searching, we just like this wand. We'll hear it, and they'll be like, what else you got? And then the marijuana shows up.
So is that something that you're able to do without parental permission and things like that?
Yeah, so the school is allowed to search.
Okay.
I can't. And so with Curtis, it's the perfect. We've got administrators. I have to be careful because I can't have them be an agent for me. So I can't have them ask questions in regards to what an officer would ask, but they need reasonable suspicion. That's it. I need probable cause. So if an alarm goes off or something happens, we call the student in. I sit. The administrator does all the questioning. Hey, you know what? We were notified of you possibly vaping in the bathroom. Do you have anything that we need to have of any concern? They'll say no, blah, blah, blah.
they do the questions. I can't questioning them only until they produce something. Then I know I have enough probable cause to investigate by using the wand or something like that. Still can't ask them questions because if I do, I have to call the parents first. But at that point, there really isn't any need to ask questions. I just simply, most of the time when we refer them to youth court in North Auburn, they actually get punished more there if we're talking about a punishment, which we don't like to say we're doing. We're trying to educate the kids and help them, in all honesty. Why very seldom do they go to juvenile court anymore, because quite frankly, the juvenile court won't even file on anything like this. They will on the marijuana, but when I find out what the fines are, it's $50 and a slap on the hand. When they go to youth court for a marijuana charge, it's still a misdemeanor, it's non-criminal. And so what they'll do is they'll fine them $50, $100, they can do a 500-word report, and they can do community service. And they have to present themselves to a body of their peers. So it's much more damaging or intimidating to them than it would be juvenile court. They don't even see a judge in juvenile court, they see a mediator, and he says, okay, $50 fine, get out of here. So what we're trying to do at the school is try to educate. We're really not into the catching and punishing type aspect. We have a couple of those that we actually have to do, repeat offenders, but on the most, we're trying to get them, tell them, this isn't right, try to send them some help to help them out. So that's what we do. Awesome. Okay, any questions?
Besides this, which is also extremely important to know, I wondered if you were going to touch on anything with cell phones and social media and Snapchat and things like that, and things that you find with, sexting. And,
Well, they,
and
once again, that is so prevalent, as well as the texting of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Boyfriend, girlfriend. Lieutenant Albert could tell you a little bit more about that. We don't even, our prosecutors won't file on that. They won't file of any kind of, because it's so prevalent. It's like so much that they just won't file on anything like that. When it becomes a crime of what we consider is when boyfriend, girlfriend, they break up, boyfriend had sent pics, or the girl had sent pics. And what happens is that boyfriend now says, well, we've broken up, so I'm going to share it with everybody else. It's kind of like the revenge porn, or what it is distribution of child porn. But when it gets put out to where other people are viewing it, then we have a serious situation, and we'll investigate it and file charges for that. But just simple pictures to each other, they won't file. So if a parent comes to me and says, hey, my son got these pictures from these girls, or vice versa, we'll say, delete the photos, block the person, don't talk to them anymore. We can write it up and send it to juvenile courts, and they will not file. It's because it's so prevalent.
Yeah, and I to answer your question, it is a trend that we see. A lot of photos and a lot of, I think a lot of, Chris would probably agree, a lot of the bullying and harassing and stuff goes on over social media and over cell phones. A lot of times kids don't want to go to somebody's face and do that kind of stuff. It's way easier to do it over social media and stuff. And we do our best to investigate that kind of stuff. As you can see, Officer Van Beekam's plenty busy up there with a lot of things. And a lot of times when the pictures and that kind of stuff come up, if it does cross that line into a criminal aspect, we'll either, the detectives here will take it and work the case, or we'll refer it to the agency that the person lives in to take care of it. But yes, it is indeed a trend, and I personally would like, I think kids need to be educated on phones and the dangers of phones and pictures, and I've learned over the years, when you take a picture with your phone, it's taken. You can delete it all you want, but it's there, and anybody can find it. And you would be amazed at some of the stuff we've seen on phones, and kids think they delete stuff and that their friends delete it and stuff. And Snapchat, don't even get me started on Snapchat. I'm not a fan of that at all. But yes, to answer your question, it is a trend, and it's a huge part of our job and what we deal with. But it's so big and so out of control that we try to do the best we can. And
we have parents who will say, what do we do? I don't know what to do. Take the child off of Snapchat and all the other social media out things. I don't even know what they all are. You take them all off of this, and you don't have that problem. And they're like, can't do that. Can't do that. Well, why can't you? You know, Instagram, Snapchat, and all that stuff, take them off of it. I'll add one more thing. I will tell you that what we are a big proponent of is we do not allow the bullying. If we're made aware of it, let me tell you what, our administration is right on that. We don't care who you are, what you are, or anything else inside that school. We'll tell you what, if they get bullied, we are going to make sure that that stops. Because our whole goal for Weaver High School is to make sure that we are a safe school. It seems like when you look at this that we don't accomplish that all the time, but really we are. Our kids are really, really good. They're very respectful with each other. We do have instances. We have 22,000 kids now, 2,100. Managed to get, we managed to weed out 100 of those over the school year. But 2,000 kids is like a small city sometimes. And let me just tell you what, I can't keep up with Miss Ernest. I mean, I made the joke the other day that she's like, let's go for a walk. And it's like, I don't have the right shoes on. I need my running shoes. She doesn't walk. She goes from point A to point B just like that. And it's like I can't keep up with her. So she's tremendous. So is our other administrators. And that's our whole goal, is to make sure these kids are safe and having a great environment and a good time. I think the least favorable thing is I don't understand. We've got prom this Saturday. Mind you, they're going to dance. They're going to be in tuxes, and they're going to be in these wonderful, beautiful dresses and high heels. And then you're going to see 150 to 200 kids with mosh pit type things. It just makes no sense to me. Dancing and making out or doing something like that, right? But the girls will go off to the side, and the boys will just sit there and jump up and down until they sweat to death. And then it's like, if I was the girl, I'd be like, I'm not going home with that. I'm not getting back in the car. But it's what makes the kids relieve their pressures and their anxieties, and it works good. But I actually love working up there at Weaver High, and it's really a good thing. Like I said, I probably average 45 to 50 calls a month. We don't always document them. We got kids that'll have seizures. We go on. We have unlocked cars. We have accidents. It's a mini city, and we have all the anxiety and issues that every adult neighborhood will have. It's just in a 16 through 17, 18 year age. So, but it's rewarding.
What can we do to help you? What can the are there things that you think about that could be better, that we could do different?
You know what? In all honesty, I think that just the support that you're giving the police department, not just me typically personally, but the support, knowing that we have that support, knowing that we're doing the best we can with the school, knowing that we're trying to do our best with that, I think that just is plenty, really, in all honesty, just knowing that we have the support. There really isn't a whole lot, other
Educate
than,
our own children.
huh?
Educate our own children about.
Educate your children, educate your children's friends. Let them know that this is not the way of society, that this is a deviant from it, as far as I'm concerned. But it's hard, because these kids are pressured in so much into peer pressure. I mean, we've got good kids. I mean, we've got wonderful kids that sometimes I'll catch them with this and think, oh my goodness, I know your parents. I know you know better. It's just peer pressure. It's something that we've all gone through as we went through the high school stages, and it's just what it is. I try to make sure that they understand that even though they're caught, it's not like it's the end of the world. Nothing's the end of the world for these, but they think it is. Their anxiety will pop up, and I just try to tell them, look, it's not the end of the world. We'll get through it, right? We'll take care of it. We'll take one step after another, and let's just work together, and that's what we try to do. So.
Just one more question. I think some people had some questions. We've come across a lot of weapons and prescription medication.
Not so much prescriptions. What we're starting to see a trend now is these airsoft rifles with pistols.
So you do see some
Had a
weapons.
couple of those incidences at the school where the kids were playing Bonnie and Clyde, selling cars, stepping out of the sunroofs and shooting at each other. They're just the little water pellet things. But what they don't understand is it's still a safe school issue, and it's a district issue. So we'll confiscate the guns momentarily. They'll get sent to a district hearing because it's a weapon. I mean, whether it's airsoft and it's not hurting anyone, it causes alarm by all the other kids. We get a call that says within a minute or two, we had 4 or 5 kids running in the office saying, "Hey, there's a kid that's got a gun in the parking lot." Well, what little hair I have raises up, and You know, and you go out there and you find out that it's just an airsoft pistol, but you don't know that initially, right?
Right.
And then, of course, what the trend is on TikTok is that kids are now putting on masks, going to people's houses, acting like they're going to do a home invasion, realizing it's just airsoft pistols. But they had one a lot in Salt Lake, one just recently in Morgan, and they're being confronted by real homeowner weapons because this is TikTok, right? So we got to educate these kids that this isn't fun, this isn't smart, this is just really stupid. But you know, when we say what were you thinking, I'm telling you, they don't know. I mean, there are kids, they crap their brains out and they really don't know what they're thinking. I mean, I know that sounds, I don't know, I could say worse, but it's what it is, right? And really that is the truth. It really is the truth because they really don't know what they're thinking sometimes because they can't comprehend that. Brain hasn't developed enough to think reasoning out, so they react and just do what they do. And then they think, oh crap, I should have done that. So, and we try to help them with that a little bit. So that's where we're at.
And I just want to say one thing real quick. This right here, I want you guys to keep in mind that Weaver is a very safe school.
Yeah.
And it's a very good environment. I go up there quite regular and visit Ron and Chris. And this is there's on any day there's 2,100 people up there at that school, and this is what we've got over the course of, you know, a year and a half or so. So it's a very safe environment, a safe school. This is a result of a very, very proactive police officer in that school and a very proactive administration in that school that's out making sure the school is safe. So I just don't want you guys or anybody that's watching this to get the wrong impression that this is not a safe school. That's not the intent of this presentation at all. This is simply a result of a very proactive officer and administration that works very hard daily in and out to ensure the safety of our kids at that school.
My goal today was when I asked the chief if I could do this was simply to let you know that, you know what, we do things at the school. And unfortunately, this, in law enforcement, this is the reaction of some of it, but it's a lot more proactive than it is reactive, right? I mean, this is just a small thing, and yeah, maybe there's, a couple hundred in here, but we're really proactive, and the school really is safe. And I would never, ever say your kids aren't. And I would always encourage them to come to Weaver. As far as I'm concerned, it is the best school. And I don't say that because I work there. It's because, I went there, so it still is there. But I see the other schools, the one in blue and the one that we don't mention and stuff like that, right? So this really is the best school, and it is a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
Can I just say really quick, the kids at the school love Officer Van Beekum. Like, they all know who he is. And everyone's always like, oh yeah, we love him, you know, and I think you've just got such a perfect balance of, like, you know, of that tough love and the teddy bear love, right? You just
Perfect balance.
such a great job up
Way to
there,
put
and the
it.
kids love you, and
Thank you.
we're grateful for
Very
you.
much
Okay,
so.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll just leave that for now, and then I'll clean up afterwards, you guys.
Well,
Thank you,
thanks.
Edward. You want me to clean it up now?
No, you're good.
Thanks so much, Ron. I asked Chris if she'd just take a second and tell us all the bad parts
Okay.
we don't hear about.
Under that microphone. Here you go.
Before I start bragging on Ron, Sarah, I'd like to answer your question. You said, what can we do? And I think one thing that's so important for you as parents, grandparents that are here, is don't bury your head in the sand and don't say, not my kid, it could never happen to us. Take that minute, take that deep breath, and start asking the questions. How are you doing? Why do you have this? What's going on? Because the majority of our kids who are using these are self-medicating. It's anxiety, it's depression, and they're hiding it from you, not wanting you to know, I'm struggling and I need help. So you need to have that tough conversation with your kids and not yell at them, not scream at them, but just, you've got to build that rapport with your kids. And it starts when your kids are young. And you build that rapport and that relationship and that communication all the way through. And that is the best thing that we can do with kids and with anyone in our community is communicate. Don't walk away from it. Take it head on. So that's my answer to you on that. Now, Ron, don't sit down. Come here. I want you guys to know Ron is, we just call him Beaks. When someone says Ron, I always think that's our custodian. So Beaks, I love what you said, Anne, in terms of he has built relationships with kids. Kids will come to him when they won't come to admin. They won't go to teachers. They love him. He goes out in the parking lot. He has conversations with the kids. He gets a certain group of our kids to clean up the parking lot. Hey, you know, your lunch mess, it goes with you, or in the garbage can. So he really goes out of his way to build those, tear down fences and build relationships with them. And that's one of the things I so appreciate about him, and his sense of humor with kids. And again, he's not punitive. The one thing he cares about deeply is these kids and their safety. And how do we help you? Okay, yep, you made a mistake or a choice that maybe we wouldn't. And how do we best help you? And he really, his heart is just so huge. He comes across sometimes a little gruff, but you know, his heart is so huge, and he wants what's.
But it's gruff with love,
right? It is.
Gruff
It is.
love.
Another thing, safety is his top issue. We talk a lot about safety, and we talk about what can we do at Weber High, what can we do about our building. It's old, there's so many entrances, there's so many different things, and just to brainstorm with him is amazing. And there is no doubt in my mind, if we were to ever have a situation, he's going to be the first one. And if there's a shot fired, he's going to be the one taking it. He's going to be shoving us out of the way to make sure that our kids are protected, that our faculty and staff are protected. And I so admire that about him. You know, he's, you know, told like, Chris, get out of the way. And like, no, this is my school. And so I so appreciate him and the role that he plays, but not only Ron, but our entire Pleasantview police. Man, you guys are here so fast for us, and our first responders, everyone, our community is amazing. Another thing that's so great about Beeks is he gets out in the hallways with us. You know, he doesn't hide in his office. That's a little different for you.
Who's preparing?
He wanders and he communicates with kids and he looks for things. And he's not afraid to come up and say, Chris, we got a problem. Like, what is it? And we sit down and we problem solve. He's so proactive that way, and not every SRO is that way. And I've been extremely fortunate to have him as my teammate, my partner, and we're lucky to have him. So Beeks, thank you for what you do. And again, this looks like a lot of stuff, and this is not, you know, we don't collect 20 things, you know, every day. It's, you know, we can go days without anything, but when something does happen and Nelson pops up on the camera, boom, it's right then. And whatever else he's doing, he stops and makes sure that we deal with this and deal with our kids and keep people safe. So thank you, Beeks. You're awesome.
Thank you.
He's awesome.
Gotta speak in the mic, Chief. Sorry. Then they can hear you in the Zoom world.
It's a certificate of appreciation from the mayor and city managers, Lieutenant and I, and in cooperation with this and the city council. Just know we appreciate what you do and all the effort and time you put into this, and you've done great. So, well,
Thank you.
tried to hide it.
I wish we could show the tackle you
So-
took down at University of Utah.
Yeah, so real quick, I want to just say something.
Yeah, you did.
I just stay here, Ron. I just want to say something about this certificate of appreciation for Ron. You know, nobody deserves it as much as Ron. It's very important to me. I take it on myself to keep those kids safe, to keep the school safe. That's something I take a lot of pride in, and send Ron to all the training that we can. And he's very deserving of that. I want to share one example real quick, or two quick ones, of him going above and beyond in the Call of Duty. Ron, one night we were out here on patrol, and we had a student sending some messages over social media that were concerning. They were concerning for the school safety and for this particular kid's safety. We were worried that the individual was going to hurt themselves and others. We reached out to Ron just to get some info on the individual, to see if he knew him and if there's any suggestions he had. It's like 11 o'clock at night. His wife probably remembers this, and Ron didn't just tell us about the kid. Ron got out of bed and got his uniform on and went to the kid's house and got the kid out of bed. And he did not go back to bed until he knew that we were high and that kid was safe for that night. That's why he's got that award right there, and that means the world to me. Another example, Ron was, not only has he been a great officer for Pleasantview at Weber High, he's great on patrol when he comes out and helps us. He got in a pursuit one night with a motorcycle, and I've shared this story a lot. He comes up 600 to get hits a roundabout and terminates the pursuit. We don't chase very far anymore, unfortunately. But Ron told me, he says, after I pulled over, the motorcycle drove off, and he said, I just had a gut feeling, just drive down the road. Just, usually we stop, pull over, turn our lights off, turn around. He said, I had a gut feeling, just continue down the road. Ron continues down the road, gets to the end of Pleasantview Drive where it curves off right there, and the kid had wrecked. He was laying in the middle of the road, agonal breathing, and Ron saved that kid's life that night. And that's why he has that award. And I just want to point out those couple of stories so that everybody here can have a good idea of what kind of an officer we have and how much I personally appreciate him and the chief does.
Thank you. It's nice that I always get the last word. So, as Stetson was talking, I think everybody in this room that knows Ron could share a story or attest to what a wonderful job he's doing and has done up at that school, and not only just at the school, but throughout his career. We were talking earlier, I think it was set to Jimmy Johns actually. We were talking earlier, and I said, it's too bad he couldn't have been a school resource officer all his career. And I've thought about that since I made that statement earlier, and I thought, no, because you talk about this mix that Ron has of gruffness, if you will, and the love that he has for the kids, and that's been developed over his career. And everything that he's done, he's just drawn those bits and pieces that's made him the great officer that he is now. So thanks, appreciate you so much. All right, we move on. Thanks for everybody that's attended, and you're welcome to leave if you don't want to, suffer through city council. Appreciate you so much. Thanks, Chris, for all you do. Okay, item 2 is discussion and possible action to consider amending the Pleasantview Municipal Code, Title 6, Animal Regulation, modifying definitions, and adopting the use of forms. Ordinance 2022-10. Stetson, Anthony, and Jesse. Where are you going to start?
I'll just quickly introduce them since Stetson's saying goodbye. I appreciate we have our new animal services coordinator, but then also Officer Bersaman, who's helping us with this, and then Stetson, who's really led the charge on this. In noticing our ordinances, they were a little bit out of date, and we needed some additional tools to help us, and they really stepped up to the plate to refresh those and give us some of those tools that we needed. So with that,
Okay, yeah, as Amy said, we got a new position with Jesse. Raise your hand so they all can. Jesse Brummett, she's our new animal control / ordinance officer, and in bringing that position in, we went through a lot of the animal control and the way things were operating and we figured that the actual ordinance hadn't been updated for quite some time, and there was a lot of things that we felt needed to be updated. Fortunately for us, we hired Officer Bersaman from North Ogden, who has a lot of experience in animal control, 3 or 5 years or something with animal control, and he's very knowledgeable, and we were able to use his assistance with this. A couple of things that we wanted to do was, I think we were registering or licensing 400 dogs or something around that. And we're there's more than 400 dogs in the city. We're already ordered all the tags that we usually get, and now we've had to order some more. So Jesse's been out trying to get more dogs licensed and that. So that was one thing, and then we went over this ordinance to update it. If you look on the front page, I think, do you all have that? So just the stuff there in green is some of the things that we updated.
Ours is in gray.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
The proposal,
So, what's that?
where it says the proposal.
Yeah, it says the proposal. So those following things are just the things that we felt needed to be updated. One of the biggest things was the animal attack section of this. It basically, before, the way it was written before, if your dog was at large and bit somebody, from our end of things, it was treated about the same as if a dog actually attacked somebody. Now, we got together and it's like there's a big difference between an attack and a little bite. However, the consequences were about the same. So we added the definition of attack and got a quarantine agreement that we'll do with the people to make sure that that dog is quarantined. One of the things that we did is we wanted to make sure that it was easier for the owner of the animal to quarantine it at home, financially or whatever, than to us do it here. So I can't remember what was it, like $50 a day or something that quarantine is, and
10 days.
yeah, for 10 days. So basically, the reason that is because we felt like it needs to be easier for them to do it themselves than to just say, here, take the dog for $10 for.
Well, and I will say
days,
too, I mean, you'll notice with some of the dates with the ordinance, you know, it was 1987 in the early 2000s, the last time these were updated, and you look at the rate of inflation even in this past year, and the actual costs to take care of a vicious animal are pretty substantial. We have to separate that animal from other animals. There's the care, the feeding, and various things, and so it's not just a simple task as maybe picking up a stray dog or something. There are substantial staff-related costs that we feel reflect in that fee.
Absolutely. So that was one of the biggest things that we updated and changed. The other one was just the forms. You'll see there's some forms in there. We didn't have any forms before, and so we got some forms put together, and Jesse and Tony did a great job of that. They got some forms to where we can actually have a signed written agreement between us and the owners of the animals to ensure that that those things are taken care of. And you can refer to those forms for more details. But the other thing was we just cleaned up the language on what an animal at large was, and then
Thank you for that, by the way, because there was no definition of what that meant.
yeah. So we well, actually, it was new language. We didn't clear it up. We put it in.
Yes, there was literally no definition of
yeah.
what that large meant.
So the other one is that one that says clarifying that dogs kept here for more than 60 days are required to be licensed. Something that we run into a lot is they'll have a dog there for 6 months and we'll see it. Neighbors will call about it barking or whatever, and we go there and it's not licensed, and they say, oh, it's my grandma's dog or it's my cousin's dog. It's not my dog, but it's somebody else's. And basically put in there that, you know what, if this dog's going to live here for longer than 60 days, then you need to license it with the city. So that we can try and avoid that, because we run into that quite frequent. So, and then the new one will allow a possible citation if the dog is unlicensed. And the purpose in that one, we're not going to stop somebody walking their dog and say, hey, is the dog licensed? No, okay, like a traffic ticket, here's your ticket. Basically, and we have one case we're dealing with right now. Jesse's reached out to this individual since like her first or second day for a couple, 3 months, and ignoring phone calls, has responded saying he knows he needs to get a license and then he's not. And so that's kind of where we want to have some teeth to say, okay, if you're not going to license your dog, you're going to get a citation. Our big thing is we want compliance. We want people to get their dogs licensed, and so that we can have some control on our animals in the city. And then the last one was just clarifying that protective custody means keeping it here for 5 business days. So with that said, do you guys have any questions? Tony and Jesse, do you want to come up in case they have any questions you guys can help answer?
And I'd just like to add on the addition of the forms, I really appreciate, I know that was a heavy lift to create all of those different forms, but I feel like it's a great protection to our residents and to our staff to have documentation when we take in an animal, how long the animal's here, why the animal's here, what we're doing with the animal, and just to kind of help create that documentation to protect again, and also, you know, the historical part of it too, so that if a dog is lost, oh, we got this dog on this date at this time, and why and how.
Yeah, and I'll just add real quick. We do know that cats have come up several times.
Just gonna mention them.
We
I knew it.
yeah, we fully intend on having a program and having cats involved in our animal services. Right now, it's a big thing to bite off and do. We're gonna try to get more educated. This has been our focus right now, is getting licensing and all that taken care of, where we can get more compliance that way. But we do fully intend to get to where we can eventually license cats and assist our citizens with cat problems in the city. But we felt like we need to get more educated, and we're actually working with other cities to see kind of how everybody else is handling them, even though most of them have told us avoid it. But that's a service we want to provide and be the best we can for our citizens. And so I just know somebody's going to want to know about cats. And so we'll, just so you guys are aware that we fully intend on getting to that point. It's just something that we're going to try to get better educated on and how to deal with the
I
cats.
have had quite a few people say, we got a cat problem and we got a raccoon problem.
Mhm. Yeah.
To that point, when we talked about defined terms, Pleasant City allows you to shoot raccoons in your own property if one projectile doesn't leave your yard, right? But it doesn't say raccoon, it says nuisance animals. That's not a defined term in our city code of what a nuisance animal is. So when we look at, that's under 940.090, it's firearm discharge, so it's a separate provision. But anyways, the point I'm wondering about is, when we talk about at-large, the definition of at-large, it's any animal not under, so any animal off the premises of the owner and not under control of the owner or his or her agent. And the period, not secured or confined by leash, building, fenced area, or within a vehicle. So I'm just wondering, we need to clarify that language, because what does control mean? Does that only mean leash, or does that mean, because I've had people on Facebook debate about this, does it mean, hey, my dog obeys me when I say, heel, the dog comes? Is that under control of the agent, or is it only if it's leashed that it's under control?
Yeah, I think that's why we added that next part that says not secured or confined by a leash.
I think that's better, because we've had this discussion before, and that's relative on who you're talking to. And you can't be vague in a code, because then it depends on who's interpreting it. Is it on a leash or is it not?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, and maybe just what your interpretation, should it be worded for purposes of this definition, at large shall mean an animal not secured or controlled by a leash. Totally agree. I'm just wondering if when the citizens read this, are they going to understand that that first sentence doesn't mean, when it says not under control, that only means leash? Or are they going to?
So the suggested correction.
I'm just wondering, when you read it, that means it must be on a leash.
Shall be on a leash.
At large means any animal off the premise of the owner and not under control of the owner or his or her agent. Under, for purposes of this definition, under control shall mean secured or confined by a leash, building, fenced area, or within a vehicle. I don't I mean, I analyze this stuff too much.
No, I agree with that, because if you leave any room for interpretation that's not defined, then you lose.
I'd like to kind of discuss that a little bit though, but why would we need them in control, right? I mean, I don't know if we want to go that far, that you have to have a dog outside of your property. It always has to be on a leash. Man, that seems really pretty strict to me. I don't know. I understand what you're saying. We ought to define it, but
I wasn't trying to say that that's what it
should say what it does say, define it. I don't know. I struggle with that. Maybe you can help us with that. I mean, is there?
No, just in purposes of having situations like this, then what do you do if they're not on the leash, and how do you take care of the situation?
What kind of situation are you talking about?
Like if you're on a walk and your dog and you're under control, but the dog then decides to go do something to another
Then it's no
person.
longer under control, and you can be cited for it.
If the code doesn't read that it was supposed to be on a leash, then
Well, but if a dog attacks somebody or does something, then that dog is no longer under control. I mean, that's kind of a given, isn't it? And that's something for a judge to determine, but that would be
That's my concern, is that, that
if they're just out playing here and he's throwing a ball and the dog's running and getting it, bringing it back, and he's calling the dog, that to me is somewhat under control.
Yeah.
But if that dog takes off and I'm calling the dog and that dog takes off and attacks somebody or even just harasses somebody and they file a complaint, that dog was not under control.
Then you default to that animal attack.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to force everybody to have their dog on a leash.
yeah, but at the same time, I get what you're saying. There has to be a definition so that when it does attack and hurt another animal or another person, that there's some recourse or accountability, right? So
that stand up if the definition is not written properly.
Well, and here's
That's
so
the
section
problem.
110 of the same chapter prohibits dogs being at large. It's a crime in and of itself, prohibited at large. And it says all dogs will be kept from running loose by human restraint. Humane restraint, I'm sorry, not human, humane. Every owner of the dog shall keep the same confined on his premises, provided that this section shall not prevent the owner from having that dog on the streets and in public places of the city. This is the important part. When the dog is controlled by the owner or his agent. So people will interpret control different.
Yeah.
And so that's all I'm saying is in our definitions for the section, we should clearly define what at large means, what controlled means. Now, if we want to go to the step of saying only on a leash, I violate that with my own dog regularly.
Probably
Then
most
how
people.
does that
most people
stand
do,
up,
I think.
guess? What would you say? What does control mean then?
Well, that's the difficult thing. Is it's easy to say if it's just on a leash, then it's leash or not leash. Now, whether we change the code altogether to say that it's only a crime at large if harm occurs. Right now, it just says at large equals violation of the ordinance. So we could make it that only if harm occurs, then the at large is added on as an offense, as an additional offense, as opposed to an initial offense. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just creating more issues, but it's a.
No, this
He's
is why
an
we're here. We
attorney.
want to discuss it and get it right. That's our whole purpose.
I like what you said, Bill. I think
There's a lot of additional offenses in the law. That's the thing that happens, right? So it's an additional offense to have drugs at a school zone as opposed to somewhere else. It's an additional offense. So you could do that. I don't know what the communities. There's some people that really don't like dogs running around, so they'll want it to be an initial offense.
Well, this has actually come up in conversations where people have called me and said they weren't on a leash.
I've chased my dog.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is, the at-large and control. You define control. We get called. I've been called over here to the park, and they say, "Oh, the dog's running around out of control." So you go talk to the owner. You tell me, "Hey, you have a dog in control." Oh, he is in control. He's not in the street. He's just running around here. Well,
He's bugging all those
calling
people.
him, and the dog circles like 5 times and then comes. To me, that's not in control. But to him, he's not chasing him down the road, so he's in control of the dog. And so
So we just may need to put a definition on what control means and what at large means.
And I'm gonna
that's a broad spectrum.
throw out here too that this is not just relative to dogs in this section. It's animals, and so it could be more broad as well, depending on the type of animal somebody has, or if my cat went crazy and attacked somebody, or
Or
Your
monkeys.
cat.
Monkeys are in here now too.
softly cloud.
I like that.
You know what to do with that.
If we're gonna limit it to leashing any animal, that's cats on a leash,
Good
that's
luck
a
with that
trouble,
one.
right?
Well, and that's the hard, because a raccoon could be at large. I think so. It's kind of a tricky thing with that definition, and maybe we can work that a little bit. I know we have a couple of things that we're going to be coming back with. So if there's a desire to tweak that section a little bit further, we could look at that.
Maybe if it's okay, I'll send some thoughts from writing.
I think once you create a leash law, everybody that sees an animal off the leash is going to call us. I don't think all of them are a problem. I think those that are off the leash are a problem. Those that are not are not. But what the definition is going to explain is that people that, and we'll start getting calls like crazy. My neighbor's got a dog. He just walked down the street. It's not on a leash. You guys have a leash law. You need to cite them. You need to do your job. So I think we just need to proceed with caution with that one.
That raises my question is, it seems like this is a proposal you're bringing. Do you want a leash law? Does law enforcement want a leash law or not?
I don't.
So,
Well, how about you two?
we want
Very
control.
specifically dealing with
On
that.
That's what
control
we
and
want. We
control
want
and
control and
consequences, but not a leash law.
Get the harm occurs.
And that's kind of like animal attack. We added that kind of stuff so that if you go to the park and your dog's not in control and he does something, you have a consequence. One of the things that we did change is that, like, let's say we cite somebody for bite or attack. It's a mandatory court appearance, because that way they got to come to court and the judge can issue restoration or whatever they need. Before, they could come in and pay the $25, go let the dog bite somebody next week and pay another $25 and do that 100 times. And we did see repeat offenders. And so we kind of beefed that part of it up to where it is a mandatory court appearance, to where you have a victim and somebody that an owner of the dog, and they have to come to court, and the judge can order restitution if he needs to.
Any other concerns?
I had a question on the cage trap rental fee spot right there. I know we do have like a raccoon and skunk problem in Pleasantview. And so this one says that resident taking the cage is responsible for what is captured trapped in the cage and allocating the animal in a humane manner. So like I was thinking about that, like do they know how to get rid of the raccoon or skunk besides give it a lead headache? Like, like they know where to go with
What
it?
is humane?
Or what do you do with it after you've trapped it? The raccoon. What is humane? Yeah.
I mean, after it's dead.
After it's dead.
Yeah, and if it's live, like, can they shoot it? Is that humane? Like, I'm just
City
curious.
says
Like,
they can.
The ordinance. So
Yeah,
that's the
okay.
question, disposing them. I've had this is since I joined city council, the issue I've heard most about is raccoons.
For real.
Might be my demographic, but but the question, a lot of people requested from the city have a disposal site. My understanding is we're not allowed to put them in, or not allowed to dispose of them that way. And so fence post holes, other cities would dig 30-foot fence post holes, drop the raccoon, and put a layer of line. I don't know if the city wants to have a raccoon disposal site, but it's something that people are doing right now and don't know what to do with. So they're throwing them in garbage cans.
And you can't relocate them. There's wildlife resource. You can't trap them, take them up on the divide and kick them out.
Or even the dead coffins like that.
No. So
I just know that we have a lot of raccoons, so maybe just clarifying this one a little bit more, or just giving more direction to what the residents could
Or-
do once they.
Yeah, maybe
Have it
even a
trapped.
recommendation to us if we need, what can we tell people to do with them? Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And we've got to be careful with wildlife resource. It's their animal. It's not a domestic city animal that falls under our jurisdiction. It's a wild animal that falls under theirs. So we got to
They
be,
won't do anything with
yeah.
raccoons or skunks.
But I think we got to be careful with coming up with what we will do, like what we do with a deer or a cougar. You know, the wildlife resources is going to get involved if we're not careful. So I understand we have to do something, but it's got to be lawful.
Be very
and-
specific and then run it through them.
Yeah.
Also, can we throw the turkey vultures in with this too? Like, again, like people don't know what to do with them or what to.
No, they're protected.
Yeah, and we
know all
can,
about turkey vultures.
So I will, oh, sorry.
we can take a look at that and try to clarify that. I'll be honest, when we did that, I had cats in mind. I was thinking about cats, and Jesse has, you know, the cage and trap rental. We want people to have access to them and use them. In the past, we've had a hard time getting them back, and so that's why we put in there that failure to return it, you know, $100, and that's because that is more than what it costs. But we don't want people to take one and then just send us
Maybe they
$40,
make a
and now we got to
deposit
drive down
and
to go
then-
buy another one.
That.
And we thought about that. We just don't want people to not do it because they don't have the $100 to do it. And so I don't know. That's something you guys could. We don't. It's not a big deal to us either way. If you want a $100 deposit up front to take it, that's fine. We just thought, well, we don't want people to not come get it because they don't have an extra $100 to come and do it. And with the allocating it. Jesse's done a good job. She's reached out to some places, and we do have some resources. If people trap a cat or something that they need to get rid of, she's got some contacts that we'll give them to call and take care of it themselves. So we can work on that and get a better definition. I had cats in mind, and now we're talking about it. I'm like, why didn't I think of raccoons and stuff?
No, that's good. It's
well-
a great start, and we definitely
It
do
is.
need this. So
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going to. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot to the animal ordinance, and we really, in the initial discussions, I mean, they've done phenomenal work, but haven't even discussed like the pest animal side of it. It's more, okay, well, we're working with dogs right now, and so what do we do to improve that so that we protect ourselves and the residents? And so I think that's been the central focus of this update. That isn't to say that there aren't more updates needed. But I think, you know, this is that starting place as to how do we tweak how we handle animal services and how we work with people on this. So
One step at a time.
yeah, there are a lot of different things. And what's funny, I mean, even, you know, Sarah did a great job posting this out on social media, and then somebody had questions about chickens. I talked with them today, and turns out their chickens aren't legal, so we've got to navigate all of that too.
Hey, what about kids? Oh, yeah, you can't have. What do you do?
We're only into this animal services code enforcement position, less than 90 days, and we've made great strides. Police department's never overseen code enforcement. We kind of got general idea how it works and what we need to do. Brought Jessie on board. She's done great with a few cases we've had, and Lieutenant Talbot oversaw the revamping of the animal code, and Tony and Jesse jumped on board with that. We've made great strides in just less than 90 days. So we're going to continue to do that, and we'll get all these unanswered questions answered and come up with ideas and remedies. And
But we do have more to come, and so with that, I think this discussion is very, very valuable to know that raccoons are one of the central problems, and so that we can at least come up with some real reasonable options or solutions.
So what is the preference here? Do we want to table this and bring it back with answer some of these questions?
I think
I would suggest that.
yeah.
So I'm entertaining a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion that we table the animal regulation ordinance 2022-10.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for all your work on this, though. Thank you.
And if y'all don't mind, just email us what your ideas are, and we're more than happy to
Take a stab at that.
do that.
Thank
Thank
you. That's a lot
you.
of work.
I'm glad somebody's willing to tackle it.
Okay, item 3 is discussion and possible action to amend consolidated fee schedule to amend fees relative to animal services, resolution 2022-B. Amy?
Yes, so, and I don't know if you'd like to table this because we tabled the other one, but the fees are relative, but also a little bit of a different item. And so this goes back to, I guess, part of it, our ordinances and our fees not being updated for some time. And so a lot of the way the fees have been structured no longer, I guess, cover the actual costs of these things. And so one of the things with, for example, like livestock, so if there's livestock running at large, you know, pun intended to our prior discussion, but if there's livestock that the city ends up taking in and you need to find a place for that livestock to go, our current fee is $30. The proposal would be to adjust that to $100 and take into account some real fees with getting that livestock relocated, traveling with that. Also, just with some of our other fees, looking at some of the in-town offenses and taking into account the actual staff time relative to what that is, to house that. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments, or if there's any desire to table that as well in conjunction with the other. We do have some other fees, and it was really good to kind of talk through. And they're not fees, but they're citable fines or infractions that they have been working on as well. Just so that if there is a vicious animal bite and type of cost with those, so the citable infraction type things that will be coming at a later time. So again, you know, there's more to come on this.
I don't think we necessarily need to table approving these fees.
And just so you guys are aware with these fees and stuff, we a couple of things. One, we wanted to make it easier and a better decision to comply than to not, you know, and so that was kind of the amounts. We're like, okay, it's this much to license it, this much to get a ticket. You know, we want people to want to comply. And also, just so you're aware, Tony and Jesse, they have done some homework as far as reaching out to other agencies and cities, and these are really consistent with what they charge as well. So we won't be, you know, our citizens won't be saying, and it only costs this much in North Ogden or this much in Harrisville, and why are we so much higher? We're very consistent with other agencies on these fees and stuff as well.
Yeah, it's not like we don't have an animal ordinance in place. We do, and every one of these fees is an upgrade to those. There are no new fees here that changes the fee.
Nothing we're gonna do with the ordinance will change the fees.
That's kind of why I'm saying I don't think it needs to be tabled.
So,
Questions?
Have we had a livestock incident in any years?
Oh yeah, just what was it? A couple weeks ago, we had a horse at large out on the highway and jumped. Lady
no
pulled
leash.
up.
There was no leash involved.
She stopped in the middle of the road and seen this horse trotting around. The horse actually trotted up to her car and jumped right in the front windshield.
The one that you.
And so we do deal with livestock. We deal with cattle and horses, and that thing, you know, the $100. I mean, if it come right down to it, we'd have to call and rent a trailer, take one of our trucks and get a trailer and figure out and get a hold of the county and go put it at the county. I mean, we're just talking worst case scenario, a minimum of $100. I kind of wonder if that could be a little more. I mean, you figure if the county charges us some to house one there, if we, you know, there has been times. I mean, we had a horse last year.
Well, and
it
we
took us
also
like 3
have
days.
listed though too the
$100
pickup
a
and
day to
transportation
board.
actual cost of the city and damage restitution actual cost of the city. I mean, I know that those, but then also $100 a day, and we were kind of joking about that a little bit, but I mean, you know, the cost of hay, all of the different things, getting the water to that animal, or finding a place that we may have to pay to board a horse. You know, it might be cheaper for the owner if it's $10 a day to just let their horse run at large and have the city care for the animal. So
Yeah, and that's
significantly less. It's yeah, you get a deal of a deal at $10 a day with a horse.
Yeah, you can take all my horses for $10 a day. I'll let you keep them, but yeah, I mean,
I just want to be careful that we're not punitive. I mean, we want to be punitive, but not excessive.
No,
in
well,
that
and
area, so.
per state law, we really can't charge fees beyond what the costs are.
Reasonable.
So we really can't be punitive. necessary.
So then, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor,
there's
I'd
a
like,
difference between fees and fines, so, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the consolidated fee schedule to amend fees relative to animal services resolution 2022-B.
I'll second.
Motion by Yuri, second by Arrington. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Arrington,
Yes.
Harriet,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Yuri,
Yes.
Gibson's absent. Thank you. Motion carries. Item 4 is discussion and possible approval of the purchase of netting for the Barker Park playground equipment. Tyson's.
A chance to read the staff report. This is for the netting there at Parker Park next to the Bowery. This is the replacement on the state contract and with the $1,000 and $2,099 left over from what we were planning. That's just the webbing, all your existing anchors, the posts there. The guys took it down and they'll use that. Equipment back up.
Oh, I love it. Just the same that it did before.
It's just in kind and without the cable that ripped from the crimp and was dangling at eye level as they were climbing.
Okay. Glad it came in under budget.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve purchase of netting for Barker Park playground equipment as presented by Tyson Jackson.
Motion by Yuri, second by Nelson. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Is there opportunity for the ramp and stuff like that to replace some of that stuff? Or, I mean, I'm wondering if that's
I think that's covered under ramp.
A what?
a ramp grant, like to, I mean, replace netting,
Previously, an easy grant
Just
was
for
only
in-
$2,000.
installation, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
We were gonna look at that one.
it's past general ramp time, but easy grants are only $2,000 each, so.
For the replacement cost, so it could come down if you get any of that and goes to something else. But like anything for that area,
Yes.
you'd be pulling out those transfers, because we did talk about that, like, what are your options to use that space with that? Because they're so size specific for your fall levels, your distances to other surfaces that you're getting into the 50s and up to start replacing it with something that wasn't big kind and it's well used. I always people on it. So
Yeah, just looking for an opportunity. I don't know if there's money out there for that, so I didn't know. I didn't know.
You're right, though, in the future, like when you put in your general ramp grants, yes, absolutely, you can replace playground equipment, get new playground equipment, absolutely.
that's one of the one of the few budget items this year that's not triple what we had investigated.
It's actually less. Yay.
Pretty excited that it didn't turn into something that we were asking for double or more.
All righty, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5 is discussion and possible action to amend the consolidated fee schedule to add a credit card service fee for the Justice Court Payments Resolution 2022-C. Amy.
Okay, thank you. Before you this evening is a consideration of adding a fee relative to the use of credit cards to pay court fees. So right now, this is very revolutionary for our city. Our court fees are paid either in person or via phone. This is moving us into the internet, very, very excitingly so. And the fees that are being proposed before you are the actual fees with the card companies, and asking the user to pay those because of the infraction versus the general populace through city assistance. So I don't know if there's any questions you have of me, but we are thrilled. Our court clerk is thrilled, and it's going to be a very positive change. We're going to be doing our billing through the state's website. They actually help with some of those. I may have paid one of those in my time on the state website, and it's a very nice forum to have that access.
It's
convenience fee basically is what it is, and so that the court doesn't lose money by allowing them to pay.
Exactly. And they'll still have the option, if desired, to pay in person or via phone, but our hope is that that's gonna help that go way down. It's hard on our court clerk. She's trying to run the courts in addition to taking all of these fees in this manner.
We worry about the 2%. I mean, I guess we just adopt a new resolution if merchant fees change.
Yeah, so that would be an adjustment at another time.
Can we call it like a convenience fee? I just have heard in the past, and I don't know if this is true or not, that you can't charge for fees related to credit cards and call it that. You know what I mean? Like, so if you were to
Yeah, that's why I called it what I did. Is I know when we established this at Weaver County, in order for people to pay property tax online, and then it expanded from there. That is the term we were instructed to use by the state or whatever, that was to be called a convenience fee, because so. Did they? Maybe we can just reach out and see what we want to call it, or what the website's already.
Convenience flash service fee.
Maybe the website already has done that. That's what we're going to be using. So
Convenience slash service fee to make it, or we can just change it to a convenience fee and.
And I don't know, Laurie, do you know if we have an option on their website to adjust the labeling on that?
well, I'm sure somebody's done their homework on it. So let's just double check that. And
Weaver County helped the processing fee.
that's changed already.
At least this isn't a freaking ass question, but yeah, there's some, so do we adopt it with the contingency that we use?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were very specific terms we had to use, but let's see, that was like 12, 14 years ago when we first established that at Weaver
If you
County.
want to
So
adopt it, then contingent on.
we can call it service fee in the resolution. That's fine.
But I
But-
like the option of the contingent on the correct terminology.
Yeah, we're happy to do that research, but we also take the service down as the.
Sure. Yeah.
Just something if you're all comfortable.
Is,
Obviously, I want to put.
we're just using it for court fees, or is this across the board?
That's for court fees. And
Is there a
so-
reason why we can't do this for all
Baby
cities?
steps. we
Been using cards for years, Mayor.
Very smart.
Did you hear she's talking?
No, I'm sorry, I did miss that,
Can't
Laurie.
do it for utilities.
Touching the mic, Laurie. I'm so sorry. No.
can't charge the merchant fees on utility accounts. We actually will have 4 merchant accounts. We have the utilities we can't charge it on. We have a basic retail, which we use for like dog licensing, building permits. But on that one, if they're going to pay a building permit and it's more than $1,000, we will charge it 2%. And that's been on our books for quite a while. And then we have the old court one, which we don't have any fees. So we'll get rid of that one once we get this new one through Expressville Heights. And that'll be a 2%. One of the interesting things is we would look to see the 3 that we have right now and what they charge us. On utilities and retail, when people are paying it, the fees are about 2% up to 3%, somewhere around there. But the court finds when I check on those are a lower fee that's being paid, and we're thinking because they're not probably using American Express or Discover or the account that you can maybe get better deals on. So it is a lower rate that we're already paying, without charging. But that was interesting.
Okay, thanks, Laurie.
Thank you, Laurie.
Gonna make a motion to accept resolution 2022-C to approve it, subject to using my terminology service fee.
I'll second.
Motion by Nelson, second by Arrington. Any further discussion? Roll call. Arrington.
Yes.
Gibson is absent. Marriott?
Yes.
Excuse me, Nelson?
Yes.
Neary?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, discussion and possible action to consider approving a long-term stormwater management agreement with Brent Bailey, EK Construction Bailey. Amy.
Okay, and I'm going to introduce and present these next 2 items in one swoop. So the other is nearly identical. It's the discussion and possible action to consider approving a long-term stormwater management agreement with Sunpro. So the agreements themselves are identical in language with the exception of the groups that are entering the agreements with the city, and it is to protect the city having a long-term agreement with that stormwater to determine how that's handled, and we do that with every single development that happens. And so one of the things we are looking at, just to simplify, and I don't know if the council has an interest in this or not, but possibly having a form template that you all approve so that you don't have to approve these every single time they come through, because again, the language is identical. It's gone through our legal staff. And then if we have one that has a unique circumstance where the language is modified, bringing that to you for consideration and going through what those modifications are, because right now we have a lot of development happening and there's a lot of these agreements coming onto your agendas, and it's just a little bit of time.
That was my question, if it was, you know, if it differed in any
No, it's the same as,
case that you would think it's this, but if
yeah,
it's
no,
relatively the
these
same,
ones are
then-
the same, but I think if they differed, and so that's just something we're looking at as a possible template to have you consider, which would pretty much be this language, but then if there were changes.
Yeah,
to
and they'd bring that
those-
initially to us to approve.
Exactly, exactly. Just because I hate to take your time and staff's time in preparing these each time, and it does delay the development process a little bit as well as they await your determination on these.
And this was written by our legal,
Yes.
okay, not there.
No, our attorney, Mike Houts, and we didn't receive any changes from them, and we really typically don't negotiate on this because it's in adherence to state, local, and federal guidelines. So,
Bill, you had a comment?
This long-term stormwater management agreement is going to convert, is it any commercial development? Is it any, when is this triggered?
I believe it's with any site plan of commercial development, and there are some times though that we do have stormwater agreements with a subdivision or a residential development as well. It's just depending on whether or not there's something in place. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay.
This time, would we be approving it as to a form, or?
No.
No,
just
no,
these
just as
agreements.
what's on
She'll
the
bring
agenda.
back,
I
if
just,
we decide to do that, we will bring
Yeah.
back a final for approval with that and a procedure.
I
In
just
other
wanted
words,
to
if
give
it
you a
differs
heads
from
up
this,
that would probably be coming. Yeah,
yeah. So
just
till
because
then, we're just gonna keep going like we've
for
been.
some of you, these come up like every other agenda. And oh, another stormwater agreement.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the long-term stormwater management agreement with Brent Bailey, EK Bailey Construction.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Is that one, that's just the property off of 2700? We're talking about the development,
Yes.
north 2700.
This is the commercial development
East of
on the,
600.
yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Northeast.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Motion by Arrington, second by Yuri. Any further discussion? Okay, this does not require a roll call vote, I believe. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7 is discussion of possible action to consider approving a long-term stormwater management agreement with Sunpro.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the stormwater agreement with Sunpro.
Motion by Arrington, or excuse me, Marriott, second by Nelson.
And this is off with Thousand. Sorry, I didn't
Oh, yeah, yeah.
include that in the.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Item 8, discussion and possible action to consider entering into an agreement with Horrocks Engineers Incorporated for right-of-way and alignment adjustment consultation services for the Skyline Driving project in the amount of $10,000. Amy.
You guys are sick of me yet tonight, but I have 2 more presentations for you. So before you this evening is something that we've been working closely with WACOG, just on the Skyline Drive project. We've been trying to navigate some various components, some struggles we've had with right-of-way acquisition, but then also just with some of the terrain of the existing route of Skyline Drive. And so in that process, Brooke from the county has recommended that we look into bringing in somebody who previously worked for UDOT, so her name is Diane, and this is something that would be a reimbursable expense through WACOG, so this is something that costs the city, but doesn't exactly cost the city because they'll fully reimburse it. a contract of up to $10,000 to have Diane assist us, kind of heighten it to a new level. We've hit some snags in the right-of-way acquisition and also in navigating how best to go about the roadway project with the existing funding we have in place. And so this is what that agreement is before you. I don't know if there's any questions. I feel like Diane's got some excellent expertise. She worked for UDOT for several years and is now retired from UDOT and working for Horrocks Engineering, and so that's who the contract would be with.
Is it defined really what she's gonna do for us? Or, I mean,
Yes, so the agreement is focused in on a couple of things. One of them is right-of-way acquisition, and the other is consultation services with relation to the project, and so to help us navigate what the next steps will be. We've got a lot of moving pieces on this and need her assistance, I feel, and per Brooke's recommendation in helping to refine our process.
And in our conversations with the Skyline Drive Committee, there's been adjustments that needed to be made. And so this will help facilitate those adjustments.
Correct.
Help expedite the process to make it cleaner, smoother, and within WACOG's jurisdiction.
Correct. Yeah.
Not to exceed. There is Exhibit A. It's about the
I mean, and
7 pages from the back, which is the scope of services. It's pretty simple, and again, this is a recommendation from WACOG, and basically they will be paid.
Well, a
for it.
recommendation and a request.
Yeah,
I think that they want to work with us, but they also they see that we need a little bit more assistance at this time.
All things considered, too, the recommendation needs to be strongly considered.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter in an agreement with Horrocks Engineers for right-of-way and alignment adjustment consultation services for Skyline Drive project in the amount of $10,000.
Okay. Do I have a second? Motion by Yuri, second by Nelson. Further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, that's a good question. When are they going to start on this?
As soon as the agreement's approved, we want to get a meeting set up with Diane.
Within 6 months, right?
Yeah, it's a 6-month maximum contract.
Will you give us a follow-up as soon as that's possible? And
Oh, absolutely. Happy to get some information on
Okay.
that.
Item 9 is continuation of a tabled item with discussion and possible action to add assisted living as a use in CP1, CP2, and CP3 commercial zones. Ordinance 2022-5. First, I'm not sure because we've in 4 years never tabled an item. So, do we need a motion to bring it back off? To bring it back, or right? Okay. Well, no, it'd be fine. No, just to bring it back off the table.
So
to
the
consider.
reconsideration of a tabled item.
Yeah,
What
reconsider.
tabled it, I don't know.
I can make that motion. I'd like to make a motion that we bring back into consideration the tabled item to discuss assisted living in uses CP1, 2, and 3 commercial zones, ordinance 2022-5.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 All right, so it's back in consideration. Did you have? Oh, okay. But so this, yeah, make sure that everybody understands the public hearing has already been held, and that public hearing was closed. The determination as to what to do after the public hearing is what we're considering now. It was tabled with some questions that we wanted staff to answer. So, Amy, take it away with those questions. Hopefully she's
I'm
answered
happy
them.
to. I don't know if Councilmember Yuri had a question.
No, I thought that we had addressed some of the questions, and I'm just confused about why we're still considering it in all 3 zones. But maybe
Well,
you
I
can
think
help.
that the main reason why that listing is in place is because of the Planning Commission recommendation.
Okay.
And so clearly there was some discussion and some diversion possibly to look at reducing where those areas were, but because of the Planning Commission recommendation and some of the questions prior, I wanted to give a little bit more context. So with that, just wanted to give an overview. Obviously, the council has tabled this item requesting the additional information. we as a city, and I learned this after the last meeting, wanted to give you some context, have had some developers express interest in the CP1 and CP2 zones for the assisted living facilities. So just some context there. This didn't come necessarily out of thin air. There was actually somebody in a CP2 zone that was requesting this initially, and we didn't have that information from the prior planner in transition. So we were able to get that information, and recently got some information from somebody in the CP1 zone with interest as well. And currently, assisted living is allowable as a conditional use in 3 of the city zones. And so there's 2 commercial zones, C1 and C2. But I will say, past our prior discussion, we have listed and notice a pending ordinance to modify and remove assisted living from those zones, just based on the prior dialogue, and that'll come forward to you for consideration after it goes to the Planning Commission. And then the other item, or the other zone, excuse me, that it is allowable in as a conditional use is manufacturing commercial mixed zone, so MCM.
Can I ask a question on that conditional use? So when you say conditional use, is that open to the council's discretion, or you actually set down conditions?
Right. It's
There's
permitted.
specific conditions set, and they're actually set by the Planning Commission.
Okay.
And then that doesn't, and the conditional application comes only before planning commission.
Correct. And one of the things too, I think conditional uses have evolved over time. And so I would take into heavy consideration whether or not you want, and we're going to be bringing forward a lot of other items, whether you want those listed as conditional or permitted, because ultimately conditional is permitted with conditions. And the conditions can be based on what is included in your code and what you're allowed to regulate based on what you identified as possible issues in your code. So that's a little bit of context there. There is a definition in our code. I know there was a request, let's define this in our code, and it turns out there is a definition. So that was good news. But assisted living facility is defined as a residential facility. I highlighted it for an abbreviated version, but they have to be licensed by the state in a home light setting, and they can offer an array of services. So whether it be, basic or very in-depth services based on needs, and then the availability of 24 hours a day to those residents. And each resident has their own service plan, so it's uniquely customized to their needs. And then it does also indicate that such facilities do not include and are not classified as residential facilities for elderly persons or residential facilities for persons with a disability. And so it's not a residential type usage. It is an assisted living facility, home-like setting, and it's not necessarily a big apartment complex where individuals that are older, those aging community type structures or anything to that nature. So it is pretty clearly defined. I don't know if there were any issues or questions with the definition, but I know there were questions prior in our discussion. How is this defined? What does this mean? So I thought that was a pretty good definition. And so in breaking down what areas of the city are being discussed per the Planning Commission's recommendation, the CP1 includes 7 areas within the city, and I do have a little zoom in of these different ones. CP2 has 3 areas within the city of the zoning, and then CP3 has 2 areas of the city within that zoning. So that gives you an idea of how many different areas of the city would be impacted if you were to choose to allow for this to occur. If you were to pick one of the zones or 2 of the zones, or however you want to do it, or even 3 of the zones that you'd like to see changed and modified, I know there was discussion before of limiting the scope of that, but somebody could always come in with an application to rezone too. So if let's say you don't pick all 3 of the zones and one of the zones gets left out, then that option would be available to them.
Particular piece of property.
It would be specific to that piece of property, and so this just gives you a little bit of a guideline on the impact of what that might mean. And so here's in the CP1 the 7 areas, and I'm going to kind of come and highlight. I did color coded borders to match the colors of the zones. So I was having too much fun at work today. Not really. So there's 1, 2, CP3, and this one's up in the upper western quadrant of the city, and you see the border up here that's beyond city boundaries. This one is over by the straw market, and this one is actually over by us a little bit. There's your fancy triangular piece that the housing's going in on. This is down a little bit lower off of 89 and 2700, so it gives you those two pieces there. And then in this one, there's just this tiny little pocket that's up near the border of the city over on the eastern side. I don't know what I did. That was weird. In the back, maybe. Okay, I did not like my maps. Did not like the pink borders. So that, I don't know if there's any questions about, those are the 7 areas where CP1 is. CP2, there are 3 areas within the city. So you'll notice my color-coded borders once again. This piece is CP2. This tiny little piece is CP2. These are off of 2700 and 2550. You'll note that the CP2 up here is already well under development, so I don't know how relevant that piece is anymore, but I guess if it ever got torn down and they wanted to change the use, that could be. And then down here, this area, and then these lots are CP2. So, and then CP3, there are 2 areas in the city, and they fit on the same map. That was phenomenal. So we have the one up here, and then down here, and that's again off of 89 and up near 2700. And so with that, as mentioned prior, there is a Planning Commission recommendation with this. It is to have CP1 as a conditional use, CP2 as a permitted use, and CP3 as a permitted use. And I won't go into too much depth again on conditional use, but I think if you'd like to have it as an allowable use, sometimes it's cleaner to just have it permitted, but that's completely up to your
That was Planning
discretion.
Commission.
Yes, this was Planning Commission's recommendation, and I think it came at the recommendation of staff. So that was.
I'm going to express, some of the concerns that Steve had about it being allowed too broadly through the community. If we limit it to one zone, anybody can come in, whether it's currently residential, CP1, CP3, whatever. They can ask for a zone change. We do have to allow it in one zone. We can't, exclude it from all zones. If you exclude it from all zones, then it's actually allowed in all zones. So has to be at least in one zone. So we tried, as we looked at these, to say, okay, which zone would probably be the most appropriate. As a staff, the Planning Commission was tasked with, this is a recommendation. We want to do this. We want to take it out of the C zones, the C1, C2 that we just and put it in a CP zone. And one thing about conditional just means allowed, but with conditions. So it should say permitted / conditional, really, because that's what it is.
That's what it is now. Yeah.
And we set those conditions ahead of time. So.
Well, she just identified 14 spots that are currently.
Oh, you want me to add all those together?
Oh, wow, just
2,
The
5.
different areas, there's one that has 7, there's one that
12?
has 3. There's one that has
12 spots where if we approved all 3 of these, it'd be allowed in 12 different areas in the community. And I know Steve had a concern, and I think a couple of you else mentioned that similar concern. So my recommendation, and I don't get a vote, but my recommendation would be to limit it to just one zone, and then if somebody wants that is in another zone, they just would need to come in and petition us for a rezone.
Well, and
then we
depending
can
on
see.
the council's discretion, that would be granted or not.
Right. See if it's a good fit or whatever. Well, I personally think CP2 right now. There's 3 areas, one of which already has. Yeah.
Areas is that it's acreage that more matters to me.
Mhm.
So is there enough there for a developer to fit in what the needs of the city would be? Because I think the city does.
Well, yeah, go back one, and Mr. Hunt's here. His property is that top right-hand one that's the CP1, which is next to which was the old restaurant, which is the area behind. He bought
East of
Toby's
Straw
old place there, East of Straw Market, and all that behind. But his is only partially. So if you notice that bottom pie-shaped piece, so you know, if he has expressed interest in something like this, he would have to come for a rezone no matter what, even if we put it in CP1, because
There's
of the
other-
way, because I have no idea how that ended up like it did. He has no idea how it ended up like it did, unless he's found out. But yeah, his
Well, the
property's two
CP1,
zones. Yeah.
part of it is green and it's not zoned neighborhood commercial. You would have to apply for rezone no
Yeah,
matter what
so-
we did.
If we say it's only CP2,
And the
he
light
can come in
green's
and ask for
RE20.
CP2 or whatever. If he wants to proceed with that, he's got a lot of options, a lot of ideas. So this is just one of
So
them.
even if we had,
Mr. Hunt, I'm gonna allow him, even though that's okay, just to speak. We come up to the mic and.
Considered that.
Mhm.
I don't want to take a lot of your time, but yeah, there's that front portion of CP1. There's a strip of residential.
You can kind of see that funny arc there. So
We like the idea,
right there.
but we're not sure what we're going to do anyway. But
Right.
we like the idea.
And
Is there somebody that's pushing for assisted living? Is there somebody that's encouraging, or just a general question in the city?
yeah, we've had general questions asked of. Nobody's brought in an application or plans or anything yet.
and since we have to designate a particular zone to allow it, the discussions before us to see what would be the
And
best
it is
fit for
allowed
Pleasantview.
in the manufacturing zone. That was new information from our last,
Yeah,
but it's not, I don't know how optimal that is.
But even in that those 3 areas of CP2, there's already one that exists. And then the other areas could be a mixed use of an assisted living plus, you know, commercial use as well as office space or retail or what have you.
we did meet with I'll call it the Hunt Group. I don't know a bit better way to put it.
That sounds cool.
Last week, yeah, this last week, they approached us with that property and quite a few ideas. And I think you put something out on social media asking.
Maybe we
Somebody
did, I
did.
don't know.
Yeah, somebody did.
Oh, yeah, well, do you own the dirt parking lot now? Yes, somebody asked what they would
I
like.
think it might have been,
No.
No.
Somebody actually asked about your building.
but it was
But
the
we would
last
like to
name was
see
Hunt,
their-
so I was
Oh, Somebody
wondering
did.
about a daughter-in-law or something because it was female's name.
Yeah, I don't want to take a lot of your time.
Yeah, but
I'm in
anyway.
support of that option. Any questions you have for me?
Thank you. All right. Anyway, so my recommendation would be just to put it in just a permitted use in the, or I don't know, we maybe even could put it as conditional use in the CP2 zone. Never thought about that.
What types of conditions can you impose?
Well, certain size limitations, parking limitations, traffic, you know, you can't have people
Yeah,
parking on the street, you
parking.
can't, you
So
know.
you can impose a certain size with the structure, so.
It's the type of limitations we already have in our code. So you can't just make up something
Yeah.
and
No,
make
but
it.
I just want to know,
Yeah.
so if you have a large parcel or whatever else, and I guess if they were to subdivide it, you can have a certain percentage of that parcel be an assisted living, if you did it in percentage basis.
Functionally, we already have
Meets
it
our
as-
parking requirements. Oh, no.
we already have this conditional in C1 and C2. So if we were going to go with the mayor's suggestion, we would be moving C1 to a prohibited use, right? And then C2 would be a permitted use.
And this is where, so so C1 and
Oh,
C2 are being, I know, this is where, I'm sorry, Phil. So C1 and C2, commercial 1, commercial 2, those ones are the notice of pending ordinance. So those are the ones that are kind of that prime commercial
And none of the
corridor, and
CP
you all
zones
discussed.
have it in there right now.
But the
So to maybe
CP,
remove from
1,
those
2,
and
3, or
put it
what?
in a CP.
Question, would we remove them from C1 and C2?
That's our plan, that's what the
Yes.
notice of pending
Certainly-
is.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
If it makes you
Well-
feel any better, when I was putting together my packet stuff, I'm like, where
So
did
if we were
I
to put, do we have to make the conditions now?
No.
or those can be.
And I just threw that out. We could make it a permitted use. We don't need to make it.
Oh, I like the idea of a condition.
So the conditions just have to relate to something in our existing code. And so we already do have, size, height, and so you can pull from those type of elements, but you can't just come up with something.
No, nothing arbitrary. But
Yeah.
I think that size and setback and things like that, and considering
Parking.
what is available, would be appropriate for a conditional use.
It's still an allowed use. In other words, if it's there, they can come in. We just get the opportunity to review it and say, well.
And think of some
And when I
different.
say we, I mean the planning
And
commission.
that would allow for other development to go in as well.
But permitted's also, I'm good either way. I just think we should just have it in one zone. That's what I'm saying.
As far as like just fitting in with like language of the code, I think that CP1, where it's saying that it's like provides the sale and supply of daily living needs and people living in the neighborhood, like it's a neighborhood commercial zone, right? And I feel like assisted living fits so well in like a neighborhood that it could go, right there by Grandma's Closet or right there by Star Market. So I think functionally it fits better for me in the CP1 zone. If we put conditions on that, that's fine or whatever, but I can see what the mayor's saying as far as like, there's,
Well,
there's a lot that's.
And I see what you're saying. The difference I have is, or it talks about personal services for the neighborhood and community. If you're running maybe 40 beds, and you have a place like the Lodge versus a place like the one that's on 2550 now.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
The one, it does make more
good in
sense
a-
in a neighborhood,
Mhm.
but the other is, I think you've gone beyond a neighborhood into more a commercial venture, taking care of a larger group of people, and that's why I suggest it's just not 5 or
And then it
6
could end up-
people.
Didn't we define, or don't we have a definition of the size of the?
We don't have a definition of the size in the current definitions, but Councilmember Arrington's comment actually kind of got my brain moving a little bit, and I wonder, if there is a desire to have a different type of assisted living that's maybe, smaller use or more minor type of thing, that we could come up with another definition, that neighborhood assisted living or something that reflects more of that.
Limited to X
And
amount of
define
size,
it more of what that
8 units or,
Mhm.
something
I-
small.
Yeah, I'm
Have
thinking of,
pieces of property in CP1 that are big enough to go the larger scale. We do have CP1s that are that big right now that could go large scale.
But they could come in and ask this to be rezoned to CP2 if that's what they can.
Yeah.
So
For a
if you're
larger
stuck in the
scale.
CP2 with the pre-existing zones, other people could still ask for it, but the council has a little bit more discretion of, rather than having 7
Yeah,
areas.
is this
and
what we
somebody
want
comes in
there?
with
Is that a good fit for there? Does
an
it affect the
application?
neighborhood?
Yeah.
That's-
If you have 7 areas, if they come in with application, you can have it, but if you have 3, they're more selective if they ask for a different area for a rezone of, this is not what is in the best use, highest and best use of the land for Pleasant City.
Will it be adversely impact the
Yeah.
neighborhood surrounding
I
neighborhood?
think it's important, right now, there's not a need, people aren't beating down the door saying we need this, we wanna build the lodge here.
Yeah.
And so, but we wanna attract businesses, so I think if we make it a permitted use in CP1 or in all 3 zones, then you may have assisted living that says, hey, let's go there, because it's permitted use and there's no,
Right.
but that may not necessarily be what we wanna attract for that zone. So I kind of agree making it a conditional in one of the zones, and
I definitely
Anybody else
think
in
conditional has to be no matter where it goes, so that we can control the size and all of those things. And then I do like the idea of the limited zoning right now, that there's only 3 areas.
Keep it in mind, anybody
Yes.
can come in and ask for a rezone, even if it's currently residential.
But
And it
we're
was
more
bare
selective.
residential, they could come in and ask for a rezone where we could, say, yeah, is this a good use for that?
And so the only concerned area I have for that is what you're saying is they're on 2700 and that's already developed to the size that it wouldn't attract something there. Is that what you're telling me?
But if it's a conditional use, then it would almost become a mixed use area with controlling the size of that.
I think you got an old man.
No, this is.
No, they're at the bottom of 600 on 2700 to the east, across the street.
Okay. Yeah, see that whole east side, I mean, this is basically, we've already approved this as a subdivision for Brent Bailey.
This little one down here.
Yeah. No,
Half of
the
no, the one above it.
bottom,
Where's your cursor?
The one on
Bottom right
2700.
corner.
This?
Oh,
About half of it's taken by,
a good chunk of it's taken.
Yeah, and there will be anticipated a church in that area too.
So it goes farther than just the middle line, I think.
No.
No.
No, the
That's
CP2.
all one.
Okay, let me go to CP2 map. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's 3 CP2 areas. And it does include this little weird triangle over here too. It's just not.
Well,
So
we
really,
have,
there's only one spot that it could possibly go
well,
on
the
that.
upper could be, but the strip part, no.
Yeah,
But
the upper could be as big enough.
We've been working with somebody on the strip, the bottom. There's 4 lots there. We just met somebody
But even
yesterday,
that whole,
and that
I think it was yesterday.
that whole area, half of it is already going to commercial, a
Yeah.
commercial subdivision. So the other half, even if they were to do it, if you make it conditional, you could control the size. And it would be in that person's best interest to offer other things to make it, assisted living with other businesses.
Putting it in CP2 is really a placeholder until a developer comes to us and says, here's what we
Yes.
like. And then we can consider a rezone if it's not in CP2.
Yes.
so someone comes and wants to put it on 2700 in that CP2 spot now, we gotta let them go there.
But you make it a condition of what it would be.
I don't really love that location for that, but well, that's the risk is somebody
That's
comes
the
in.
risk.
But then if you do it neighborhood
Conditional or-
commercial with the other one,
Yeah, but conditional, I mean, it's the same. It's just one more layer of
Yeah.
purview. I mean, it's
yes.
the parking's going to be the same whether it's permitted or conditional.
But if there's setbacks and height requirements and things like that.
where's the CP3 zones? Down there.
They're the 2 purple.
Let me get my bearings again. Where are we at?
Okay, so
So
here's
that's
2700,
Pepsi
here's
patio
89.
homes. The Pepsi plant's already in CP3, and there's.
Where's the other one?
Down here next to that other CP2.
We're on 89 right there.
So I mean, that is a zone we could put it in, and then if somebody in CP2 wanted to come, we could ask for it and rezone to CP3.
How many CP3s are there?
There's 2. Well, 2 areas. I apologize. I wish I had
Well,
more
one
time to
area
get
is
the acreage
That might be.
to fill
On the other
questions.
area is
So
I
let's
wanted
not
to, and I ran out of time today.
Choose CP2 or choose CP3, but also make it.
full.
We're much less likely to rezone something to CP3, right?
Right.
Because they rip down the
Okay.
retirement facility and it's still CP3, and isn't CP3 more broadly commercial? Trying to see what's permitted in CP3. That's not in CP2. So I'm just wondering if we put it in CP3 and then have this idea that we'll rezone it if somebody comes in and wants, are we really going to rezone something that's kind of residential as CP3 because they're putting the facility
There's so
in?
many other uses that can.
Because then the facility goes away
Yes.
in 5 years and it's still
Something else.
CP3.
Right. But CP2 has, the uses that are in CP2 are more.
That's what I don't know. Is which one's broader?
3.
Three's the
One of the
product.
manufacturing.
CP2 has more of the things that we're desiring along our corridor.
That makes I worry about. So if there's one route the most restrictive.
And it's got the
But we have
most.
most areas that you could put it in.
It's kind of a.
So if you go back to the CP2, you do have that corner, but you impose the conditions. Half of it's already taken for commercial subdivision. I don't see. But CP1, there's a lot more property that could go. And people in CP1 where they could come and apply for that rezone, and you still get the other things that you want, the CP2, besides an assisted living. You get commercial.
You think CP1 makes more sense?
If you
Even though
allow,
there's 7 areas in the county or in the city that are currently.
It opens it up to more areas.
I like the logic of CP2. There's less area. You rezone it and you still get what you want. even if you don't.
And it's, if you are CP1 or CP3
Mhm.
and you want to do that, then you can come and get it rezoned to a CP2.
I like it in CP1, but I don't like that there's so many areas.
Yeah, that's
So
my.
if
Yeah.
it's limited to CP2, then you can control what happens when they ask for rezone.
Rezone.
We just run that risk of the 2700 spot.
You do. But half of it's already taken to commercial. So you have that corner, and if you do the conditions, it reduces the size, and it would be logical for them to do assisted living with commercial businesses too.
Here's a weird, let me throw a weird wrench in this, but can we take that area that's CP2 on 2700 and rezone it to CP3? You know, not necessarily tonight, but I'm just saying, like, could we move that out of the CP2 so that we weren't at risk for getting assisted living right there in that spot on
Would we be at
27?
risk for spot zoning then? Just if it doesn't meet the general plan?
And so from what I gathered in the general plan, and I really should go in and dig a little bit deeper, but it really is just more broadly commercial in some of these areas. So it doesn't go into the specifications of the CP 1, 2, 3s and C1.
So you could without looking like.
Well, yeah, it's still a CP, it's still a commercial.
Yeah, there's
zone.
so, because the intent is the commercial with the commercial properties from what I gathered. And, you know, with the
That would allow
discussion,
more
It would
things.
allow more industrial and
Exception.
things like that too, so if you rezone it, you might not get the commercial one anyway, you end up with something that doesn't help the city at all.
if
you
there
recall
is a
that CP
desire to
3,
look at further definition for a
But it
CP1,
allows other things, it's really broad.
We could double
Yeah.
check that. It's all, it's possible too. We maybe want to make it
That's
C.
just my worry about that.
We might want to make it C2, like across the street.
Yeah,
Where- Especially
yeah.
where we're limiting or
Yes.
taking these out of the C1s.
I like that too.
Yeah, instead of C2. Okay, so that's my.
and it's
Can,
it's currently allowable in C1 and C2, so just something to keep in mind too, that
assisted living is allowed in C1 and C2.
yes, there is a notice of pending ordinance, but as soon as that process is expired,
We are.
so right now it's
That's
proposed
what
to
the
be
notice
removed.
tells that
So can
not accepting that.
Can we do that all?
we do them all together?
No,
We do them all together next
gotta
time.
go through its whole.
So tonight we
Um,
can,
We could table this again, but that's gotta go through planning commission. Get a recommendation from planning commission, then we gotta have a public hearing on C1, C2.
Is anybody in a rush to do it? Like, is it?
So there has been interest expressed for CP1 and CP2.
but not C1 or C2.
So we could table it for 2 more weeks if you wanted.
Well, so-
that won't happen in 2 weeks, so.
Close that
It's-
window.
But it is what it is. If that's what we need to do, that's what we'll do. Well, we don't want to spot zone, and we don't want to, but we're almost kind of like spot zoning in reverse here, in my opinion.
Well, I just want to protect that corridor.
We're just,
You know?
Yeah.
we're changing uses, we're not rezoning, we're changing uses within the zone. That's a little different than just changing a whole areas to different zones. If we change the use, that's not as, yes, you know.
Well, and I guess I just think from, you know, a holistic standpoint, and it kind of goes to the comments from the gentleman earlier, where would you like to see, you know, assisted living facilities in the city? Because, you know, the demographics and the growth, and there's a
Yeah, we
lot of
definitely
different
need
things.
some.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the
Question.
the
Yeah.
question, and with the zones that we have, you know, manufacturing maybe doesn't seem like the best use, but that is currently allowable. But you know, where do you want to see that based on the determinations you make, or do you want to wait until the others come forward? But I don't know. I mean, if you don't want to see them in those other areas, if waiting is really a benefit to you,
You don't want to wait, you want to be close.
sorry, you guys have a hard discussion.
Options, I guess, but do that. Makes sense.
Well, if it wasn't for that one C2 and the CP2 in the bottom corner there.
So I guess this is my recommendation then, is I think we should table it tonight. Then I think we should come back and, in my opinion, approve it in the CP2, and then change that piece of property right there to C2, all at the same time. That's so.
Table
Yeah.
it. Come back with the recommendation.
Sorry, my brain is.
Add the use in CP2.
Mhm.
And then rezone that property.
What's
That
the
property,
process for rezone?
we just gotta go to planning commission,
Just that one parcel.
then back to us, just that one parcel.
So
Well,
rezone.
it's not one parcel, it's one
No, the
area.
area, and-
Multiple
Which one?
parcels.
This
Right
one
there,
here?
yep.
On 2700.
And the application that's already in, the building that's going on, it still fits that use of C2. It wouldn't infringe on that at all. It would just protect the rest of the remaining property to commercial.
We wouldn't want
Good
across
thought.
the street there.
Well-
It's all of the things that we.
That's what we
have
just,
asked
we
for
just,
anyway.
before you,
We
la-
rezoned all of it.
last,
C2.
about 6 months ago,
700.
yeah, we went in and changed all that, so it would be,
So the only thing, and not to throw a wrench into that, and I think that that's absolutely a possibility. I don't know if you'd like to talk with the property owners there because they have a lot of different developments and uses that they're planning with their subdivision that haven't yet come
What can you
forward.
do in CP2 versus what can't you do in CP2?
There's
What are the
there's
differences?
quite a few differences, and I'm
Between
happy to
C2
get you
and
that
CP2?
list. Yeah.
let's make that list,
Yes.
and then we'll go from there.
And that's actually, you know, we ran into, and it's working out fine
That
with
would be
the process.
important for
But
the second part of that, of the rezon.
Sure. Yep.
But the first part, we can, I think that the intent will be best, but with the list, then that would give us more food for thought of how we want to move the other part.
yeah, no, can absolutely provide that list.
I would be okay with that. I think
I'm
that's
just
fine.
thinking of things that are.
Yeah, there's what's interesting, and both zoning ordinances are written very differently, and so I think we stumbled on this. So I can say it because it's kind of gone through the process. But Sunpro, when they put in their application, we had not done the notice of pending ordinance, and based on the interpretation of the existing code with the CP 1 and 2, it was allowable to have that type of use. But then with the repealing portion of that, now we're going to have them actually go through the process for the conditional use permit just to make sure we've covered all our. And so Sunpro wouldn't be allowed with the way
But
things
didn't
have
they,
changed because
did we do that before the notice, though?
the
That should have been great.
well, they got it. There's language in the code that implies the intent was to replace those things, even though it was still in the ordinance. It was a little bit fuzzy.
But we'll talk about that offline.
Nursing homes are in C2. Unlicensed rehabilitation treatment facilities are conditional in C2. I'm just wondering if we're accomplishing what we hope to. Is a nursing home in that zone on that parcel any different than the assisted care facility? And so if we take it to C2 and nursing home is still a permitted use.
Well, that's where we got the pending notice.
And not just.
So if she were to make the list, that would be definitely part of the discussion of if we would want to rezone it to C2.
So we're also taking nursing home out of C2, not just assisted care facilities. Those are two separate things. Assisted living facilities.
Nursing home is a more high acute care.
Yeah.
And so
Is that staying in C2?
Well, and I don't think we've noticed nursing homes, just the assisted living.
That's what I'm wondering. If somebody then, we change it to C2 and the next day somebody applies for a nursing home there, do we accomplish what we hope to accomplish with that parcel?
right,
Or
and
we
that
still
would be
have-
the question with the list that she would make of what is the difference between CCP and C2.
Yeah, we can look at that. So I think, are we all in agreement?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we table it.
Second.
Motion by Arrington, second by Nelson to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bring that back when we get some more answers.
Accomplish tabling it again, though.
We're getting good at
But
tabling.
this is good. This is a good process. I enjoy this discussion.
Item
I'm
10
glad
is a
that we're
closed
having
meeting. Do we have a closed meeting?
I don't have any items for
Okay,
closed
item
meetings.
11, not applicable. Other business, really quick. Tyson? You have anything you need to tell us?
First passed is action control program in
Ooh, proud Mike.
water. So yeah, that's a tough test, and proud that he got that done, and add that to the list of accomplishments for him. And then we're gonna have the OSHA specialists come through to look through the shop and sort of the public area and talk about that signage and getting all our OSHA approved signages up. And then Jimmy, the mechanic's been looking into the Fastenal for checking out a lot of your small items that turn into taking handfuls and disappearing sometimes quicker than not. They're almost like vending machines, but people have pins and you know where your inventory's going. And they're free from Fastenal as long as they're
Product.
supplying that. After your inventory and people not running out of safety supplies in your gear. So,
Awesome. You really, I was like, you walked up there and you very somberly said, "My curse passed."
I know.
I thought you were gonna say
I
something.
was just like,
I looked up and I was like,
Oh.
okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's like,
I'll like that.
yeah.
Once I get rambling, it goes.
I didn't even know he was sick. Mayor's the last to know everything. All right, great. Thank you, Tyson. Chief.
Officer Bersaman, who was here tonight, and Officer Lucas passed their
Not funny anymore.
blood draw school. So we'll be
That's good.
once policy and procedures in place where you start doing blood draws on.
That's a big thing, actually. There's quite a
Yeah.
shortage of people certified in this area to do that, and there's officers that have waited hours and hours. Yeah.
When you bring them in.
Sometimes you can't collect evidence. There's no one to collect the evidence. And
That's
if you don't
great.
have evidence, you haven't got a case. So anyway, I'm proud of those two for doing that and taking on that
Well, kudos to
responsibility.
the chief to be proactive and send them there to do that, because it has been a problem in the past, not just for our agencies, but other agencies. So I'm glad he proactively dealt with that.
Well, they did good, and that'll be on board once we get policy procedure in place and the do's and don'ts. And I'm proud of the guys and gals tonight that took care of that animal ordinance with professionalism, and Lieutenant Talbot oversaw the project, and those two jumped on board, and it couldn't have been done better. Amy's inspiration too, that's always good.
Chief, I hope they don't leave discouraged from our suggestions. We are mostly in favor. Like, I hope it didn't come across as like that we are being negative about it. We're in support.
Yeah,
Just
well, we
some
know we
tweaks.
are.
Okay, okay.
And we just need to tweak a couple things. That's
Yeah.
kind of what we wanted you to look at and see what we need to tweak, and we will tweak them.
Yeah, we make sure our message came across right. I was a little worried about that.
No, I understood it, and I think they did too, and I'll relay your concern.
Okay.
I still worry that we're gonna come back and debate whether we want a leash law or not. And that's, I think, something we all need to think about. And I'm glad
Hard
to
to
hear your
enforce,
input.
but everybody,
People will call, you'll get them.
Yeah, I don't.
I think everybody should put some thought into that, and we'll make the right decision when the time's right. And Officer Van Beekum, what a rock star, you know. I knew him in his younger wild hot days in Ogden. And
I love it.
I can't believe it's the same guy, but he's doing great.
You should have seen his wife's face when Chris Ernest said that, you know, she knew that he would take the first bullet or whatever. She's, no! Anyway.
So I told him he could leave and I'd clean up his mess, so I'll take care of that when we're done.
That's right.
And we're staying busy, and I'll spare you all the details for a less busy night. Thanks so much for your support.
Amy.
We're just underway with our new planner. She's doing awesome, getting her feet wet. There's a lot going on. We've got APA this week in Kanab.
What does
starting
APA
tomorrow.
stand for?
In Planning Association.
Back to your roots.
Utah. I know. I'm getting you guys like still the deal on housing or room and board. My parents.
Everybody bunking up with mom
Yeah,
and dad.
they're just charging
the
half price.
commissioners don't even know there's the hotel situation yet. No, I'm teasing. I'm not doing that. but we had a couple of demos this week and are looking at some softwares to simplify and kind of like similar to the justice court going online, improving our processes with planning and with our building permit. So we're really excited about the prospects there.
Very impressed with the one that.
Yeah.
Very impressed.
Yeah. And given the costs that they're looking at. I mean, it's, you know, you probably save a position and it's way less than what that would ever cost. So very exciting. We'll have some other things coming forward on that, I'm sure. And just really appreciate our staff. I know we've been busier than we've ever been, and Laurie, Heather, you know, all of our front office staff, Brianna, they've all just stepped up to the plate and really worked hard. And I know Tyson's group's been busier than ever as well. Police, just I can't speak highly enough of our staff. Just so appreciative. We've kind of been through a very busy time, and we're still hanging above water. It's hard, but.
Well, and Amy, that goes for you too. Like, you really carried a heavy lift while we were down a planner and working your guts out. Thank you so much.
Still heavy.
Still a
Thank you
little
to all
heavy,
the
but-
staff that helped pick up the staff slack with you. You
I,
guys are rock stars. You really are.
yeah, you guys will never get a better staff.
True story.
I have zero complaint about them, and I think that's all I have. Excited to. Wow, yes, thank you so much. So Darcy Mock, it's at the 9-month period with the last review of her item. And so in the last discussion, and for Phil's benefit, we had a home occupation request for some variances. There were 4 variances proposed with the 7 that are in our ordinance that are allowable. And it was ultimately not approved prior, but there was a request for her to come back after 9 months' time. And we'd reached out to her and invited her to the meeting, and she indicated that they actually will be moving their business, and so there was no need to have her come this evening.
Gave her a year, but come back at 9 months.
Yeah, it was kind of a 9-month review thing, and so she does still have the 3 months remaining to maintain her business from her home, but we've had some communication with her, and she's indicated that they will be moving that. So just wanted to give you a heads up that we did follow up on that 9-month period. It wasn't desired.
Larry.
I'm going to be, I'll talk about it offline, but I've had some comments about the rezone, changing of the site development standards, buildings, private garage buildings in backyard. So we kind of talked about this before, but in cul-de-sac lots, it's very, very difficult for somebody to give the setbacks that they need and still build a building. So I sent something over there, and then we'll talk about that maybe next week.
Yeah, no, thank you for sending
I'd like
that over.
to
Sorry,
sit
I haven't
down
had a
with
chance
you and
to-
see.
Yeah, jump in, but.
And
Yes.
So this is shared news, but we received our ramp grant for pickleball. So we're super excited about that. We still need to raise a little bit more of the funds, but we think it's doable. So we're excited about that to move forward with that. So it's a substantial ramp grant. And it's gonna be-
315,000.
yeah, it's crazy good. So it'll be really fun. Yep. So that's all I have. Yeah, I have.
I played it one time. I did. I played it in Mexico.
Oh,
with
and
the
love
Halls.
By the way, the courts are open.
I did like it.
New nets. Thank
It
you,
was
Tyson and
enjoyable.
Cindy.
It was enjoyable. I liked
Fun, huh?
it. So,
I know.
And it's even before April 1st.
Yeah, so that's good.
do it now. So
Right on.
there.
Steve's not here, but I'm sure he would mention if he was here. We had a good follow-up, introduction to our Founders Day meetings, and everybody's hitting the ground running with their assignments. And we do have, now we actually have, interestingly enough, 2 sponsors for the car show. Woodruff Auto. There was some miscommunication there, would still like to do it, along with the new person who said that they would like to do it. And I actually got a 3rd phone call today from someone that I directed towards Steve. So we've got the car show taken care of, and we're excited. Cindy made up the flyer for the Easter candy grab. If there were some, thoughts about that, she was gonna put that in there.
Where did I say it? I think it was in your response. We're going to do it the same as years past. I got a lot of, and I don't know about the rest of you, we talked about this, got a lot of positive feedback about how we did it last year.
Yes, and she's planning on doing it the very same way.
That
And family groups.
family groups worked
Yep.
out so much better for the parents where they didn't have to try to divide up,
Yeah.
especially those that had more than 2 kids. days.
Right, and so
So-
they didn't, yeah, so she's planning on doing it the same
That
way,
worked out
has,
really good.
went through the same vendor that Allison went through and has great candy, a ridiculous amount of candy. And the flyer will go out, for April, she'll put up the banner that week. We'll put it out on social media and send it in emails.
So that's
that
April
week.
16th.
April 16th, 10 a.m., it will be over by 10:05.
And so much easier this year, because last year we were like, are we having, are we not? What's going on?
No, it'll be pretty much
So
done
much
by
better.
10:05. So, but
Yeah,
she'll
you don't want to
there
be
so-
late to the Easter
No.
candy
Set
grab.
up
I put that
like
in my
at
newsletter
9,
that I
and the
said.
YCC's
Don't be
gonna
late.
help out with that and have baskets where they go around and, oh, you didn't get some candy, and just drop it in front of you, and there you go.
I actually think
So-
I said, I'm not sure which is worse, showing up late and missing out on your kids collecting all the candy, or showing up on time and having your kids collect all the candy.
I don't
Some
know.
other stuff I
That's
put.
true.
Anyway.
No, so
true.
she's got that down. It's gonna be awesome.
Said 9 o'clock.
It's
10.
10, but she'll be there. You know, we'll be there like at 9 o'clock to set up, and YCC's coming, and Easter Bunny will be there. It'll be awesome.
And very well attended.
Yes, it is. But you know what's cool is that every city around this area is going to do it at the very same time, so we won't be overwhelmed. And so I'll,
Have a lot of
yeah,
kids.
That is
but
Very well attended. Well, they love
Yes.
art.
well,
They
because
love art.
we have
kind of have the best candy.
ridiculously
So.
awesome, amazing candy.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Not that I
We're-
ate my kids' candy or anything.
We're lining up all the food truck events, and the movies in the park are taken care of. Kind of cool, our robotics club at Lomanview went to district, they took first. They went to region, they took first. They went to state, and they took first, and now they're going to national competition.
Wow.
And so we would love to have them come and present. The people who, you know, coach them and watch over them are amazing, the Ericksons and Gina. And if it's all right with you, to have them come and just kind of highlight what they've been doing at Lomanview.
Sure.
All of
If they'd like to.
the first meeting in April. So, but it's pretty dang cool that they're going to nationals in Texas.
I'm hoping for a
These
quick
kids.
meeting in April. April 12th.
A what?
Hoping for a quick meeting in April.
Yeah, it might be somebody's birthday. I don't know who. But anyway, so things are looking
The
up.
40 item
awesome.
list.
What?
You can table everything to this one.
Anyway, so,
This is the first meeting, isn't it?
and
Wow.
thanks to Officer Van Beekham and the
Table
city
everything, just
council
keep.
and people that showed up. So there we go.
Well,
So not on the
I don't really
Hey.
have anything, but I did have a question about cybersecurity for us. I don't know if we talked about that much, but in the past, but we feel kind of a heightened
Oh.
The
discussion
good
right
news
now.
is we've been offline since the city was founded for most of it.
Yeah.
Vulnerable to cyber attacks.
we really did up that this past year.
Oh my goodness. I think I've absolutely, and I'm sorry to all the employees.
Yeah, we
I'm
have-
laughing over here. I've terrified all of the employees. So I had Jason doing all of these fake phishing scams. We've done dual point authentication, which is causing problems too, and
But I have that on my
access.
phone.
But we've
No,
talked a
it's
lot
good.
with Jason. We've talked with the trust. That is something that is very heightened awareness, and it's one of our training topic lists.
Yes, we are.
But we
We're gonna be
did
thinking about it.
tweak our training topic to add emergency preparedness for your recommendation. I thought that was excellent, and really want to make sure the employees feel adequately prepared in case there is something happening.
The question more related to cloud systems get wiped out. What do we have?
Yeah, I mean, I know we've had cities have problems in the past, but we also have a heightened security issue right now, and I just, that's not an area I'm an expert in by any means, but I definitely know.
And we
Wasn't
did
there
have
a
it
city last
reviewed.
year?
We maybe,
Yeah, Clearfield.
yeah, and that's after that happens when we had it all.
Yeah, that's
reviewed.
when I started. Yeah,
Yeah, that's, yeah,
and
I didn't know what.
But not only reviewed.
what was
but we
amazing,
up-
what was amazing is Clearfield actually, they had a cybersecurity company, didn't end up paying a penny to the hackers, which is wonderful. But with ours, I started making Jason send out all this fake phishing emails and spam, and we 100%. We had one person click it, and he told them to click it so they could see what would happen, and it forces you to do a training if you do click it.
Get
Unbeknownst.
one more fake email from the mayor.
No kidding.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah,
do you
it's
have
all
a second, Sarah? I need to talk to him. Like, he never talks like that.
Hey.
It's not the mayor, I know that.
But no, I feel like that's something that's really been a focal point, and I want it to continue to be. And so I don't want people to feel lazy or feel like, because it's a huge threat. And now that we are moving to online formats and different things, I think that that's something to be thoughtful of. One of the things the company that we met with today, we asked about that. They've got multiple servers and options and storage, and I think that that's something we're going to be looking at. Backup, yeah.
So we do have storage.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and Laurie is phenomenal, as you all know. But I mean, we not only have digital, but she also does a really nice job having a paper
We have a
retention
crazy
trail on
awesome
everything.
vault down in there, secured location.
Well, it's good to have both. I mean, frankly, and even with moving to our business licensing and our planning, we will still be retaining paper copies of things, just in
Oh,
case.
pardon me. Somebody's correcting me because they're watching it on YouTube. The robotics competition is in April in Dallas, and it's a world event. It's not just a national
Ooh.
event,
Nice.
It's a world event.
It's in April.
And thank you for watching us on YouTube.
So, yes.
Sticking with us still.
Hang on. Let me ask when it is.
I feel like
Okay,
you don't get a
so-
lot of views in some of these.
Anything else, Dave? Okay, just so everybody knows, Jimmy John's is now open. They opened today. I went, myself and Ann and Amy went down, and it's a nice little facility. Yeah, it's really
Highly
gonna be
recommend
nice.
the Zesty Turkey Club. That was very good.
So it's the off the menu
They have some
special, though. I didn't know that
Yeah, that's a
existed
special.
until today. Yeah.
I didn't get it, and I tasted my wife's, and it was awesome. I was like, maybe I should have got it. It was the pesto sauce.
That's what it is all month. So you
Pesto
can.
sauce that made it. I got the Italian, so.
I like this one.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's open, and yeah, it's great to have them in the community now, and I'm not sure when the other.
Oh, no. Let's make
They're
that
good.
info. Sorry. Somebody else.
So, yeah, so they won't be. Will they be coming in April
Yes,
then?
it'll be
Okay.
coming.
All right, great. We already covered the Easter egg hunt or the Easter candy grab or whatever we're calling it. Well, there's no Easter eggs, so.
No eggs involved.
Kind of nice one to end
I
up
had
with.
one egg with like a Jimmy John's gift card in it.
Yes.
The golden
$50
egg.
gold egg, Jimmy John's gift card.
Okay. Do it. That'd
Gift
be
cards are
awesome.
hard though. We'll go into that, but city. Yeah, kinda.
Maybe we'll donate one. Yeah, that one we probably can.
This is a $50 credit to spend time with his municipal
$49.99.
employees.
Is that better? $49.99. Nope, it's not 50.
All right, well, it's almost 8:30, and so I don't have anything else. I probably do, but I forgot what it was. But it's like I know there was something other than.
I thought you were
Jimmy
looking for a
John's.
motion.
Yeah, well, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd entertain a motion that we close this meeting. Sorry,
All
I
in
make the
favor?
motion.
Yeah.
I'm like,
All in
I'll
favor,
entertain
say
the
aye.
motion.
I'm like, wait.
Were you waiting for the motion?
so moved.
I
So
know, I was
moved.
gonna say so moved too, and I'm like, wait.
I still haven't had
I
enough
was sitting
sleep.
there going,